How did the Wendy show end?
It ended because of the negligence of her production company in regards to realizing how severe her health was. And when you're in a situation where you're busy trying to divide and conquer and remove something instead of really focusing on what's really going on. I mean, everybody unfortunately got a chance to see her pass out on national television, and it was mortifying. And you would think that after that happened, that they would have put certain things in place in some sort of department to deal with any kind of crisis or any kind of help she may really need. Now, I understand. Go ahead.
What was the reason for her passing out?
You know what? It was a mixture of thyroid, her thyroid condition, kind of being overworked, dehydration, and just not taking care of yourself. Like when you have this thyroid disease condition, you know, it's like you have to nurture it. You know, it's damaged, so you have to, you know, feed it and nurture it the right way. It's a very important part of your endocrine system. It doesn't work right, you bug out. And you know, a lot of times, you bug out to a point where you can't drink, you only could drink a glass of wine and it like stays in your system for an ordered amount of time because, you know, it's not, you know, as you put stuff in your system is like an engine. So all things are moving at the same time. The human body is amazing. But if there's one essential part that you might feel is a small cog and insignificant, if you don't focus on that while it's deteriorating, then you realize the residual effect. And for her, it was a mixture of, what's that called? Vertigo that set in along with the dehydration, the instability, and you know, her body just gave out. Now, luckily, soon after that, with the proper hydration and, you know, and getting her heart rate stable, she was fine. But it was a scary sign then. And like I said, you would think that from then they would put certain things in place in case it gets worse or what have you. It's not their responsibility that she go to the doctor and none of that, right, or take care of herself. But you just would never see any, you know, everybody goes through stuff. Right. You know what I mean? Like, you will never see what Ellen goes through behind the scenes or Jimmy Fallon. We've heard things, right, you know, with the hang being cut and you wonder why, you know. It's a burnout situation, you know, when they overworked and, you know, you have people that just want you to work. She had the longest production schedule than anybody in daytime television. Out of 56 weeks, most shows tape 30 weeks. 25 to 30. She's taping 40-something weeks. It's like only 56 weeks in a year.
How many times has she missed work prior to that first incident?
Never.
In 13 years?
In 13 years. I might have missed 2 days. Out of maybe 3. And these are days that we rode out together. So, you know, we didn't even do car service like the first 6 years because I was just wary about being in a car with people. Right. We would thug it out.
So let me ask you, how did you feel and how did Wendy feel seeing the production company when she did go out to take a break, putting people like Fat Joe and Remy Ma, Michael Rappaport in her slot? Like, to have her host a show, and these people don't really cater to her audience. So how did y'all feel seeing that as a manager? Not as
I can't speak for her. I can't speak for her. I don't manage her anymore. Right. I can tell you that it was real disheartening to see. Only really because most of the people would not reach out to really see if you're doing good, if she was doing good. You know what I mean? And when it becomes a race for the seat, you can't take, in any other business, you can't just remove something that was great and just put something else there. Right. Like, you know, even what you do, everybody has a specific skill set. So it's like, it was just disrespectful to see, and I understand at the same time you're losing tens of millions of dollars. There was a time where, when I was there, and we was going through some very extreme circumstances, I would try to lend and helping them fill that void properly so it don't affect the audience or the flow. And you know, one of those things was Nick Cannon. Like I suggested that, yo, go get Nick while we down for the count dealing with this. And you know, he has the talent to do it. And it worked. And obviously behind the scenes, they worked out their own deal, and that went the course that it went, but it worked at the time. In their eyes, they wanted to use a Jerry O'Connell to replace her while she's out. Not really recognizing and respecting the audience that primarily built her.
That's a white guy, right?
Yeah, you know, Jerry O'Connell was with the model, and you know, he's a great guy.
Right.
But you
that's
talking
not
about
her demographic.
right, and you putting him, and even if you know, just to see how he was like objectifying the culture in a sense, with you know trying to keep up. You know, he's only, you know, you can't blame him, but to watch it, it's like, nah, that's like putting a square peg in a round hole. Right. So to see all the different people hit the seat, and to know not one person sent out like real concern or messages regarding what could be happening. Everybody's concerned about that seat. I get it. It's business. But at the helm of that is somebody who sacrificed and went through a whole lot. You know.
Well, if you had a decision in the decision making of what to do with the show when she had to take a break, what would you have done? Well, you said you suggested Nick Cannon.
Listen, you know, Nick Cannon was during a crisis moment.
Right.
In a perfect world, Debmar Mercury, in the midst of my situation with having a baby and going through a divorce with her, the situation of her coming out of a sober house, dealing with an issue, which escalated because of the news she found out, but wasn't necessarily triggered by this was already happening, unbeknownst to a lot of people. You know, only me and my son know really what was happening, right? So, them not, they callously, no, let me rewind that back. They did not take or give her the time that a person would need going through this severe amount of crisis. I almost begged them, and Alexander Jewett knows this. I said, look, you need to give her at least a month, and she's moving into a new place out of the marital home and whatnot. Like, you gotta give her some time to process all this. And the sensitivity of the disease, which is substance abuse as a result of alcohol, is serious. Like, you know, she had to relearn a lot of things. And it wasn't by choice that I wanted to see her in this sober house in Long Island City after we had just went through a whole situation out in Florida where we was rooting and hoping that she was perfectly fine after a month. I realized that it was much more severe and she needed more time to heal. And that was time that wasn't being given. You know, at the end of the day, you mention it to them, they're like, oh no, we can't stop. You know.
They think my ad dollars.
Everybody,
money back to Pepsi.
all the affiliates, they're not trying to hear she need more time. We need her working, like saddle up. And it was just insensitive to realize that, you know, okay, even if you're gonna remove me out the picture, cool, because you think I'm the source. You remove me out the picture, exploit the whole situation that she's going through to make it worse, not have any regard for her mental health, her physical health. It's almost like you intentionally wanted this to be like a tsunami, you know,
Fact.
and as long as the people tuned in,
Yeah.
it's like whatever.
Right.
So they could have gave her time. They could have gave her more time to heal, more time to herself. You know, in the midst of the whole divorce, I had took my son to Telepictures for a meeting that Vincent Herbert set up, and they had interest, you know, and you know, yeah, we embroiled in this. I knew her negotiation was coming up. I told my son, I'm like, listen, I want you to come to this meeting, and whatever happens in this meeting, I want you to tell your moms, This is her. She can do what she need to do. Like whatever we going through in this divorce, I just want to know and make sure that you and her good. And if she thinks straight to really examine and look into what this is, this would be the best thing for her. And this was like right before the pandemic hit.
Right.
And they were prepared to not only, at the time, his exact words, Michael Darnell, was, we want her to be as big as Ellen. They almost said, I don't think they said the Black Ellen, but they said something to the effect like that. And they told us that they would have never allowed whatever was going on between me. I mean, it could have all been bullshit, but they would have never allowed what was going on between me and her to sensationalize the way it did. There was no reason, like Ellen, they shared certain intimate, like the stuff that happens, you're supposed to protect the talent. But this deal would have got her probably triple what she makes. She would have had all the departments that are not there now to help support her in whatever recovery efforts that she needed to do. It was giving her a year off or more. And mind you, this is right before the pandemic, so she'd have got this on. I didn't know that they was planning on letting Ellen go after seasons or whatever. I don't know what the plan was, but I know they was very serious. And my son took it to her. I said, you just take it to her and tell her. And she, she didn't want to do it. She just signed the extension with these people instead of doing right. And let's be clear, they took clear advantage of her as well, like in the state that she was in.
So, where do you see Wendy going from here?
We're gonna keep talking about Wendy.
That's the last question. Where do you see Wendy going from here?
I see her excelling as long as she recognizes what's really going on and takes time to herself. She should be fine. Yeah.
Oh, one thing I forgot. What happened with the bank thing? The whole thing that was in the news with the bank.
I'm not really at liberty to get into detail about that. What I will say though is there